I graduated from pharmacy school with my doctorate of pharmacy in 2008. I spent the next 10 years working as a community pharmacist. In 2018, I decided to start teaching pharmacy students. So I began working towards my doctorate of education with a focus in curriculum and instruction. As a pharmacist, the idea that I could have mental diseases is completely foreign. What's even more foreign to most, if not all people, is the fact I openly talk about my experience. I am a pharmacist, and I have mental diseases. I've been diagnosed with anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, agoraphobia, obsessive compulsive disorder, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I've dealt with depression after giving birth to my son in January of 2016. This is commonly known as postpartum depression. So why does all of this matter? 1 in 5 adults will suffer from some form of mental health challenge in their lifetime. The average delay between onset of symptoms and reaching out to get help is about 11 years. Of those people, only 45% of people will actually go see a doctor, get help, or talk to a doctor. For me, it took approximately 10 years. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in those individuals aged 10 to 34 years. I've attempted suicide twice, and I've survived. I had to spend 5 days in the hospital after my first attempt in 2016. I was only 32. Mental health issues are not uncommon, yet these numbers are alarming. You are more likely to die by your own hand than you are by somebody else's. Had it not been for my sister-in-law taking the time to tell me that my odd behavior was troubling, I may never have realized that I needed help. Discrimination is not uncommon either. Most people don't realize that you can't question somebody on the basis of their mental health or struggles. It's happened to me. And it happened to me in the last place I would have ever imagined it to happen. These stereotypes and misconceptions make it almost impossible for us to be successful because we've been told it's not possible while overcoming mental diseases or mental health issues. Tonight, I share my story to normalize the conversation around mental health and mental diseases. I share because as a pharmacist, I'm not immune to the struggles of mental health issues. I've had ADHD my entire life, so there is nothing that I have achieved or succeeded at without the presence of neurodivergence. Choosing to share with my patients lets them know I not only empathize with them, but I sympathize with them because I'm trying to navigate and understand what it is to overcome mental disease. I provide them a safe place, free of judgment, fear, and shame, a space of understanding and community. I've been told I shouldn't share my story. I should hide it in fear of what it might do to my career. Sharing these things out loud publicly could complicate my personal life. As a medical provider, people may believe that I'm not able to take care of my patients. Hiding all of my mental health issues should be important because somebody might think that I'm unable to take care of myself or my family. Shame tells me I should hide these parts away, never speaking about them. Guilt tells me to bury them in the deepest parts of the closet, never to be discovered. People, including myself, fear being labeled. Self-stigma occurs when somebody has been diagnosed with a mental disease, and then they begin to internalize those negative stereotypes, which then lets them believe they have this spoiled identity. The impact of this on any individual who's been diagnosed with a mental disease can lead to lower self-efficacy and self-esteem. Whether depression, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, or anxiety, there is this fear that once this diagnosis occurs, it will dictate who the person is. A diagnosis becomes a personality trait. No longer a human being who has lived a life full of accomplishments and defeats. A person with depression, turned into their diagnosis and subjected to the stereotypes, prejudices, and stigma. Hearing the term mental disease automatically puts people into this mindset of generalized stereotypes or assumptions. Rarely do outsiders understand what mental disease is or how it affects each one of us differently. In order to combat this misunderstanding, our society needs to start to set these stereotypes and assumptions aside, to get to know the identity of a person first, before they judge or come to conclusions about the individual. In October of 2013, 2 short weeks before my 30th birthday, I was arrested for a DUI. It's one of the many obstacles I've had to navigate in my life. The only trouble I had beforehand with the law was a few speeding tickets. It was only a matter of time before my destructive drinking caught up with me. Emotionally, I believed I was a bad person. I began making myself feel worse because getting a DUI was now a personality trait. This is when the book Daring Greatly came into my life. It's written by Dr. Brené Brown. It was about to teach me a valuable lesson. I wasn't a bad person. I was a good person who made a horrible mistake. Dr. Brown talks about the importance of leaning into vulnerability to identify our guilt and shame. When we are forced to reflect upon ourselves, we can learn and grow from our hardest moments. In this space, I learned about accepting my uncomfortable moments, to allow me to heal and feel less alone. For me, my favorite quote is this: vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It is the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. If we want greater clarity in our purpose, or deeper and more meaningful spiritual lives, vulnerability is the path. This was the beginning of me fully embracing my vulnerability. When I'm able to let my guard down and connect with my patients on a personal level, they know I understand their struggles. It lets them know they are not on this journey alone. Yes, it's different for each of us, but we're united through our experiences. Oh, and by the way, as of today, I am 822 days sober. Good. Life is complicated. There's no denying this fact. Whether you have a mental disease or not, life is hard. However, those of us with mental diseases may struggle just a little bit more than those without, but we are able to manage if we decide to do so. We aren't incapable of raising families. We can have successful careers. We can be accomplished doctors, athletes, teachers, scientists, just to name a few. Anything a person can do without mental health issues, we can do just as good, if not better. The time has come for us to step out of the darkness and into the light. Labels don't matter. Stereotypes and prejudices don't matter. Public stigma doesn't matter. What truly matters is the human life that's being overshadowed by all of these other things. All this unnecessary and unneeded noise. I matter. My voice matters. My story matters. Just as your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. All the negative things that have been said about mental diseases or those who overcome them is simply wrong. I plan to silence all of the misinterpretations and falsehoods through speaking out against them. The most effective way to challenge the false stigma, stereotypes, and prejudices which currently exist in our society is to openly prove them wrong. My name is Dr. Ashley Perkins. I have mental diseases, but I am not, nor will I ever be, my diagnosis. Thank you.